Hey, this is Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com. This is anti-war news for Friday, April 14th, 2023. All right, the first story at the top of antiwar.com today. A 21-year-old Air National Guardsman has been arrested as the suspected leaker. So on Thursday, the FBI arrested a member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard as the suspected leaker of the classified documents from the Pentagon and other U.S. government agencies that have surfaced online. So Jack Teixeira, he's again 21 years old. He was first named by the New York Times. They came out and identified him before the FBI, before the government announced it at all, before he was arrested. The New York Times conducted an investigation with Bellingcat. If you know anything about Bellingcat, they're that open source investigation website. They're funded by the EU. I know they've previously received funding from the National Endowment for Democracy, which is funded by the US government. And they're basically an arm of Western intelligence agencies. They're often praised by US intelligence officials. But anyway, so Bellingcat and the New York Times did this big investigation to identify the leaker. And according to the Times report, they were discussing this guy, Teixeira, with US government officials, and they asked for a comment from the FBI about him before his name was made public. So who knows? Maybe they actually helped the government find this guy. Um, so Attorney General Merrick Garland said after the arrest, quote, "Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information. Teixeira is an employee of the United States Air Force National Guard," end quote. So he's a member of the intelligence wing of the Air National Guard. It's not clear how this young airman was able to have access to so many top secrets. Now, I've heard many different things from a lot of different people, former military people that I know, former intelligence people that I respect and know and listen to. I'm hearing some people saying, oh, millions of people have top secret security clearance. It's not that surprising. And others are saying, no, there's no way that this kid could have had access to it. Just because you have top secret clearance doesn't mean you can get documents like this. I've also heard, there's been CIA documents in there, and then some people said there's no way the military, somebody at a military base, would have access to that. Uh, the truth is, I don't know. I'm not sure what the situation is here. It's all very strange. There's of course the chance that he's a fall guy, that this isn't really the story, but this is the story from what the media and what they're telling us right now. So this guy Teixeira, he is a airman first class, which is the third enlisted rank, and that tracks with his age. It looks like he enlisted when he was 17 or 18, so he's the third enlisted rank now. And he worked for the Massachusetts Air National Guard's 102nd Intelligence Wing, which is located at a base in Cape Cod. His job title was a cyber transport systems journeyman, which entails repairing communications equipment. So this is where things get strange. So he's accused of posting these documents on a server on Discord, which is a messaging platform mainly used by gamers. The chat where he was sending the documents was private and had about 25 members, and it was a group of young men and teenage boys. And this is from the Washington Post, had this big investigation about it. And one member of the Discord server was said to start releasing these documents in a different chat room in March. So it wasn't Teixeira that did that. Again, according to this Washington Post investigation. And then those documents were eventually discovered by, I guess, the New York Times, or somebody tipped them off. So according to the Washington Post, there were 300 photos of documents. So 300. And they have them, apparently, and they're protecting them more than they've protected, the source of the leak. Both the Post and the New York Times, were trying to hunt him down. And now there's more leaks coming out, but they're kind of being selectively chosen by the Times, who's working with a Bellingcat writer now on some of them. So I don't know if we should really trust some of the next leaks that come out now, that seems like they're very controlled. So just to get an idea of who this Teixeira guy is, a 17-year-old who was a member of this Discord server and spoke to the New York Times, described the person who allegedly leaked the documents as anti-war and a Christian who just wanted to inform some of his friends about what's going on. So, I mean, the story I think is actually kind of believable. A young dude who made some internet friends on Discord during the lockdowns. So that would make him 18 during the COVID lockdowns. I can't imagine being 18 when that happened, and wanting to, kind of impress them and inform them and show them how the government's lying. I think that's a believable story. The question is could he really access these documents? That I don't know. But I'm sure we're going to find more out as this goes on here. So just a strange story, and there's a lot of videos and pictures of this kid getting arrested. And if this is true, or if he is their fall guy, I think they're really going to try to put him away for a long time. Unfortunately, when all the stuff that we learned about Ukraine and stuff through these leaks, I think was definitely for the public good. All right, the next one here. Biden is looking at expanding internet surveillance after the Discord leaks. So, the Biden administration appears poised to increase internet surveillance in response to the leaked Pentagon documents that appear to have been posted on the messaging platform Discord. So, NBC News reported on Wednesday that the administration was looking at expanding how it monitors social media sites and chat rooms. The report cited an unnamed senior administration official and a congressional official, and they said that the administration wants to expand the universe of social media sites that U.S. law enforcement and intelligence agencies can monitor. According to the congressional source, the report said that the intelligence community is now grappling with how it can scrub platforms like Discord in search of relevant material to avoid a similar leak in the future. According to the Washington Post, the top secret documents were posted on a private Discord server. I just went over that. Sorry, it's just background on that. But so this, of course, this is going to happen now. They're going to use this to really crack down more on the internet and surveillance and increasing what they're looking at. And this comes, as that Restrict Act was introduced in the Senate. That has a lot of bipartisan support, supposedly designed to take action against TikTok, but it includes all sorts of powers that it would grant the Commerce Secretary, basically to crack down on any tech that they want to. So they're definitely, this is the way things work. They're going to definitely use this crisis, or crisis to them, to the government. This information coming out, whether they manufactured it or not, is up for debate. But they're definitely going to use it to crack down on our civil liberties on the internet. Not a surprise. All right. The next one here. Germany approves Poland's request for jets to Ukraine. So the German government has approved Poland's request to export 5 Soviet-made MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine that originally came from Berlin's stockpile. Poland and Romania have already delivered some MiG-29s to Ukraine, making them the first NATO countries to provide Kiev with fighter jets, which is an escalation of military support that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz previously warned against. So in January, just a couple months ago, Scholz said, quote, "There will be no fighter jet deliveries to Ukraine," end quote. And by doing this, so Poland has already sent some MiG-29s, the Soviet-made jets, to Ukraine, but these specific ones that they had came from German stockpiles. So under the rules there, that they need Germany to approve it. So this makes Scholz, an accomplice to sending fighter jets to Ukraine, when he just said that it wasn't going to happen. Scholz also warned against, quote, "entering into a constant competition to outbid each other when it comes to weapon systems," end quote. Because, that I think was a response to Poland and the more hawkish countries that have been saying, let's send them everything they want. And so the MiG-29s are not the Western-made aircraft that Kiev has been demanding. It still marks a significant escalation of NATO military support, and Slovakia has also sent the MiG-29s. And as I always have to mention when we're covering this topic, a year ago in March 2022, Poland did offer to send its MiGs to Ukraine by way of the US. They wanted the US to make the transfer, but the Pentagon and other NATO countries said, no, that's too much. We don't want to escalate things. And then Polish pressure also led to Scholz approving the export of the German made Leopard tanks, and Germany also sent its own. And Scholz, he's been warning against this stuff throughout the whole war, but then he always buckles and ends up giving Ukraine what they want. And he's previously said, he's trying to avoid World War III. He's trying to avoid nuclear war when arguing why not to send these things. And here he is signing off on the delivery. All right, the next one here, Ukraine's prime minister appeals directly to Lloyd Austin for long-range missiles and fighter jets. So this is Denis Shmyhal. He's the Ukrainian prime minister. He directly asked Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to provide Ukraine with longer-range missiles and fighter jets during a meeting in Washington on Wednesday. So he said, quote, "We will win this war, but to achieve it faster and with fewer casualties, Ukraine still needs intensive military support, more air defense systems that minimize the impact of Russian airstrikes, more heavy artillery, mortars, and ammunition for them," end quote. A leaked document from the Pentagon has revealed that the U.S. believes Kiev will soon run out of missiles for its Soviet-era air defense systems, which Ukraine's armed forces are still mainly reliant on, despite the Western systems that they're provided. Shmyhal said, quote, "We also ask you for reconsider the possibility of providing Ukraine with longer range missiles," end quote. And then another one of these leaks suggested that Zelensky would use longer range U.S. weapons to strike Russian territory, which of course risks a major escalation of the war. Shmyhal also said that Kiev was looking for a coalition of NATO countries to provide Western-made aircraft. He said, quote, "Ukraine is initiating the building of a new so-called fighter jet coalition, and we are inviting the United States to become its most important participant. America can once again demonstrate its leadership by providing Ukraine with F-15 or F-16 aircraft," end quote. So Austin, during this meeting, he did not comment on these requests, but he vowed to continue support for Ukraine. And the U.S. is already laying the groundwork to provide Kiev with F-16s by hosting Ukrainian pilots to assess their skill levels and see how long it takes to train them. Basically, they're training some Ukrainian pilots already. So see if the U.S. ends up obliging with these demands. I wouldn't be surprised if they do soon, the Biden administration. All right, the next one here. I left up the one from yesterday about Seymour Hersh's report saying that the CIA knows that Zelensky is skimming all of this aid from the top. That's a pretty huge allocation, pretty big report, and it didn't get much attention. So I just wanted to keep it up. All right, the next one here. Ukraine calls for the Black Sea to become a sea of NATO. So this is Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. He's calling on NATO to expand its military activity in the Black Sea, urging the alliance to transform the waters into a sea of NATO. Kuleba said, quote, "The Black Sea is instrumental for making the whole of Europe peaceful and future-oriented. Sadly, it is also a showcase of how rapidly things can deteriorate if one neglects threats. It's time to turn the Black Sea into what the Baltic Sea has become, a sea of NATO," end quote. So the Black Sea has become a potential flashpoint for a conflict between NATO and Russia, which was demonstrated by the downing of a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone after it encountered Russian fighter jets over the waters back in March. It looks like the Russian fighter made contact with the propeller on that drone and it crashed. So in the years leading up to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the US and NATO steadily increased their military activity in the Black Sea. And tensions came to a head in June 2021 when a British warship sailed about 12 nautical miles off the coast of Crimea. That was revealed, and this move was revealed to be an intentional provocation to draw a Russian reaction. That was the whole point. That's why the British did it. and Russia fired warning shots. It was a huge incident, and this is just one example of the tensions that the U.S. and NATO were stoking leading up to this war that we see today. And NATO members Turkey, Romania, and Bulgaria, they have Black Sea coasts. So the Black Sea already has a lot of NATO territory on it. Although, Turkey, they're a NATO ally, but they're very different than the other European NATO allies, and don't really want to go along with all the provocations against Russia. But they are a very important country in the Black Sea, having control of the Bosphorus Strait, which is how, if you want to get out of the Black Sea, you got to go through Turkey. So Kuleba said that all NATO members in both the Black and Baltic Seas should integrate their air and missile defense systems with Ukraine. So over in Moscow, the Kremlin brushed off the idea of the Black Sea becoming a NATO sea. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, quote, "The Black Sea will never become a NATO sea. This is a common sea. Moreover, this must be individual security," end quote. All right. The next one that we got here, the U.S. arms industry is planning its first trip to Taiwan in 4 years. So around 25 U.S. defense contractors plan to send representatives to Taiwan next month, marking the first time the arms industry will send a big delegation to the island since 2019. And this is according to a report from Nikkei Asia. So Rupert Hammond Chambers, who is the president of the U.S. Taiwan Business Council, he said that the delegation will look to boost cooperation with Taiwan's industry and wants to explore jointly producing weapons. The arms that Taipei is interested in producing jointly includes drones and ammunition. So the planned arms industry trip to Taiwan comes as the U.S. is looking to ramp up arms sales and general military cooperation with Taiwan, which will further exacerbate tensions with Beijing. The delegation plans to meet with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, who recently provoked major Chinese military drills by meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. When asked about the prospect of U.S. companies jointly producing arms with Taiwan, a Biden administration official expressed support for the idea. The official said, quote, "From a very high-level perspective, we think that co-production arrangements make sense, but we need to take a look at them on a case-by-case basis, and it has to be at the request of U.S. industry," end quote. So since Washington severed diplomatic relations with Taipei in 1979, the U.S. has always sold weapons to Taiwan, but the U.S. is now looking to expand support by providing billions in military aid, included in the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. So some of this Taiwan aid, it totals $3 billion for the year. And some of it has hit a snag with the appropriations committees in Congress. The State Department Foreign Military Financing apparently has not been appropriated yet. And it's not clear that the other $1 billion in presidential drawdown authority for Taiwan, which is the authority that President Biden uses to arm Ukraine, that's how, when it comes to shipping weapons directly from U.S. military stockpiles to Ukraine, that's what he invokes, this drawdown authority. Well, now the Pentagon has $1 billion to play with to arm Taiwan, because that's how they're viewing this, is that, they got to start flooding Taiwan with weapons just like Ukraine. So it definitely really risks stoking tensions with China, obviously, if the Pentagon starts using this authority to ship these weapons. And, of course, when Biden signed that NDAA into law, that included the aid for Taiwan, and it also includes other provisions to increase military support. We might see them soon openly participating in U.S. military drills in the region. That would be huge. And when Biden signed it into law, China launched pretty big drills around Taiwan. So we see them directly respond to these measures. All right, the next one here, bringing Syria back to the Arab League faces some resistance. So according to the Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia's push to bring Syria back into the Arab League is facing resistance from a few countries. The report named Qatar, Morocco, and Kuwait as opposing normalization between Syria and the Arab League, which suspended Damascus in 2011. So Qatar's prime minister, he publicly expressed opposition to the idea on Thursday. He said, quote, there were reasons for the suspension of Syria from the Arab League and the boycott of the Syrian regime in that time, and these reasons still exist. Qatar's individual decision is not to take any step if there is no political development or solution to the crisis, end quote. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, the Arab states that oppose the normalization are making demands of Damascus, including calls that Damascus accept Arab troops to protect returning refugees, crack down on illicit drug smuggling, and ask Iran to stop expanding its footprint in the nation. So, overall, though, regional countries as a whole, when it comes to UAE, Jordan, now we're seeing Egypt, they're overall accepting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, back into the fold. I think this is an inevitability right now. Maybe if these members oppose it, I'm not sure how the Arab League works, if they all have to approve Syria rejoining. But it looks like Saudi Arabia is serious about it, and they're probably going to normalize, themselves, whether or not Syria does get back in the Arab League. So, we're going in this direction. Whether the U.S. or Qatar, other countries that are against it, like it or not, it does seem to be an inevitability, especially as Syria is also talking with Turkey. Not that they're in the Arab League, but just if they make a deal, I mean, that'll really change things when it comes to the war. But that's it for the news. It was a bit of a slow day. I mean, all the news is about this guy Teixeira getting arrested. So we'll see how this all plays out. Very strange circumstances. All right, our viewpoints, go check them out. We have one from John Kennedy, The World War Boom and 46 Bust, Why War Does Not Keep Us Out of Recessions. That's over at the Mises Institute. One from Jonathan Cook, Why the Media Don't Want to Know the Truth About Nord Stream Blasts. One from Scott Rome, How the Most Notorious Scandal in Iraq Came from Gitmo, and that is at Responsible Statecraft. One from Nan Levinson, Is the Army All That You Can Be? And then go check out The Spotlight. Is this Foreign Policy? It's Anatole Levin. Yes, it's him writing at Foreign Policy. Crimea has become a Frankenstein's monster. It's a good piece over there about the situation with Crimea. The subtitle is The Ukrainian Government is Now Trapped by Its Own Uncompromising and Increasingly Indefensible Policy. But that's everything. That's it for the week. So I might skip Monday show because I'm actually traveling to West Virginia tomorrow. I'm going to be speaking at the Libertarian State Convention there on Saturday. So if there's any West Virginia libertarians that listen to this, I'll be there Saturday, the convention, and I'm driving back Sunday. It's like a 6-7 hour drive for me. So I'm not sure if I'm going to make it back to record a show Sunday night for Monday. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I might try to do it because I feel like there might be some big news over the weekend with this leaker and everything. So anyway, you can always support us at antiwar.com/donate. You can subscribe on YouTube, comment, share it around, all that. So I'll be back after the weekend. It might be a little long weekend. It might not, but I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.